War. War can be divided into two types, in my opinion. Wars where there is a clear good and a clear evil, and wars where the moral sides are left ambiguous. All wars can be divided into these, even fictional wars, in franchises such as Star Wars, Warhammer, and the galaxy of Helldivers 1 and 2 is in a state of galactic war, with three factions fighting not against each other, but against humanity, specifically Super Earth. Super Earth paints itself as the obvious moral good in the galaxy, fighting against the communism of the cyborgs, and later the automatons, against the fascism of the Terminids, and against the autocratic Illuminates. But is that true? Is Super Earth really the good guy? Please don't report me to your democracy officer, just hear me out. In this video, I will be going over each faction and discussing their history, what Super Earth has done to them, and what they have done to Super Earth in both Helldivers 1 and 2. Also, what would happen if they won the war. And then at the end, I will discuss Super Earth herself and the regime that it controls it. Disclaimer: the lore of Helldivers 1 and 2 is intentionally left ambiguous, as we, the players, are shown the war through the eyes of Super Earth. So some info is speculative and theorized, but I will do my best to give you the info I can find from the games and from both Helldivers wikis. Super Earth first meets the bugs in the first Crustacean War, a little-known war that is mentioned in one singular line in Helldivers 1. Little is known about this war, but during it, Super Earth discovered that when the bugs decompose after they die, they form a chemical compound that they called Element 710. It is then discovered that this substance can be used to power Alcubierre warp drives for faster-than-light, or FTL, travel. This war was declared with the extermination of the bugs as the reason. The bugs were painted as tyrants and fascists due to their caste system. Eventually this war ended and Super Earth established E710 pumps on some of their worlds, but the bugs kept existing. Eventually, Super Earth redeclared war on them during the First Galactic War in 2044, presumably to get more oil to fund the war against the other factions, the cyborgs and the Illuminate. Super Earth wins the First Galactic War in 2084 and puts all the bugs in farms. Now, when the bugs fought in the First War, they were sentient and peaceful, except in self-defense. But during the 100 years between the wars, they were genetically modified to produce more oil, and are now barely recognizable to most of their crustacean-like ancestors. This gave birth to the Terminids. In 2184, the Terminids escaped from their Element 710 farms and, with their new killer instincts from their genetic modifications, began terrorizing the planets they were on, starting the Second Galactic War. Since then, they have terraformed entire planets into hive worlds, started the Gloom, an interstellar spore cloud that has enveloped entire sectors of the galaxy. They also have a habit of eating humans, I believe it's mentioned somewhere. In the first months of the bug infestation, the 4 planets in the Umlaut sector were chosen to become a barrier against the Terminids. The Terminid Control System, or TCS, a vast planet-wide network of essentially bug spray sprayers, was deployed on the planets to kill the bugs. It had initial success, but the surviving bugs passed on their bug spray resistant genes and began rapidly reproducing and even enhancing due to the bug spray. Super Earth then deactivated the TCS, but it was too late. One of the planets, Meridia, had been turned into a super colony, not too dissimilar from the hive worlds we have now. Super Earth couldn't repel the Terminids, so off of Meridia. So they had no choice but to destroy Meridia by turning it into a black hole with dark fluid taken from the Luminate in the First War. Recently, Super Earth discovered that gloom-enhanced bugs create a substance known as E711. And then this can be refined into dark fluid, the same fluid used to destroy Meridia. And now that we know their history, let's move on to what each side has done to the other. What Super Earth has done to the bugs. 1. Justified war on them based on them being an infestation, when in reality they wanted the oil the bugs produced. 2. Invaded their home even though they hadn't attacked them, nor did the bugs have any hostile intent towards them. 3. Exploiting, that is, killing en masse billions of bugs for their oil. 4. Genetically modified them to produce more oil and also made them more aggressive and less sentient, making them an even bigger threat than in the First War. What the bugs have done to Super Earth. 1. Invaded and terraformed worlds colonized by Super Earth after they took them in the First War for the bugs. 2. They eat humans, I think. 3. They definitely have killed all indigenous life on all the planets they've terraformed in the gloom. I don't know what Ocean Rune looked like before, but it was not that. I bet you it was not that. If the bugs win, if they win the war, they will keep spreading the gloom and infest everywhere in the galaxy, killing all indigenous life, including humans. I find it unlikely the bots would be able to stop the bugs' infestation, but given the Illuminate's manipulation of dark energy and the literal fabric of space-time, it's anyone's game on who wins that war. Essentially, the whole entire galaxy would just be a big gloom cloud. You know, I think the Illuminate could win against the bugs and get rid of them, but I'm just not sure. When humanity began colonizing the stars in what I assume the 2030s and 40s, after the last Great War, which I'll get into later, they settled the icy, cold, and metal-rich hellscape wasteland planet of Cyberstan. The people who settled there were forced into slave-like conditions to mine the metal, to the benefit of Super Earth and the detriment of the colonists. To survive the cold, the colonists began cybernetically enhancing their bodies in efforts to survive. Eventually, the now so-called cyborgs announced their intentions to secede from the Super Earth Federation. Apparently, Super Earth reluctantly let them secede. And thus was formed the new nation of the Collective of Cyberstan, a communist state that was just chilling in their part of space. However, at some point in 2044, a, quote, man with cybernetic parts, end quote, detonated a bomb in District 48 of Super Earth, killing 8 civilians. Super Earth used this to justify declaring war on the cyborgs, and this is actually where the First Galactic War starts. It is possible that Super Earth staged this incident to justify war to get the mines back. The Collective of Cyberstan lost the war and were made to go back into their slavery as miners on Cyberstan. After this, though, it's unclear what happened. What we do know from the Automaton database is that in 2180, 4 years before the First Galactic War, the Second Galactic War started, a ship with unknown cargo known as Vessel 00 left Cyberstan and the automatons are programmed to view this ship with reverence as their origin point. The only other clue we have is this final message from the cyborgs. Quote, "We, the collective from Cyberstan, unanimously assert our independence from Super Earth. We have the right to defend our home from the brainwashed Helldivers. Our children, the automatons, will not suffer as we have under the oppression of Super Earth." End quote. In 2184, around the same time as the Terminids escaped their farms, the automatons emerged from outside the galaxy, invading Malevelon Creek and the surrounding planets. They were pushed back, but apparently that was just a vanguard force. The real Automaton Legion invaded in the north of the galaxy. They reclaimed Cyberstan and they have continued to occupy the area ever since. The fight is in a stalemate, with neither side making major advances. The automatons, unlike their cyborg predecessors, are 100% machine. No humanity left in them. In automaton outposts, you can find cages where dead human remains are, and you can find dissecting tables there too. In the destroy the bioprocessors side objective, and now main objective on these lava planets, you will find grinded up human bones, flesh, and blood in the processors. It is theorized by many that they are using humans as biofuel for themselves, but theories abound. More recently, we discovered that the bots are making the conditions of life on lava worlds, with what the shipmaster describes as, quote, "some sort of super dense biofluid," end quote. She also hints that it is made from human remains, and there are also entire missions on the lava planets about destroying the bioprocessors and stealing the biofluid for examination. As what the clankers hard are doing with it, we simply don't know. What Super Earth has done to the cyborgs/automatons. 1. Forced the cyborgs into slave-like conditions on Cybersand mining metal. 2. Possibly staged the incident that started the war. 3. Returned them back to slavery after the war. What the cyborgs/automatons have done to Super Earth. 1. They dissect and grind up humans for possible biofuel. 2. They have invaded former cyborg territory, causing billions of casualties. 3. There is one theory that there remains a brain in each automaton, taken from a former Super Earth citizen, forced to fight for the bots, although evidence is lacking. 4. They are making the conditions of life on lava worlds, and using human remains to do it. If they win, if the bots win, Super Earth will be totally annihilated. Humanity turned into whatever plans the bots have for them. An interesting comment is given by the shipmaster in Helldivers 2.
Here's the problem with the bots, Helldiver. Their whole society revolves around violence. If they actually won the war, they'd have no idea how to function.
This may imply that the automatons are purely war machines and survive on war. One theory I've heard is that the cyborgs made the automatons to fight for them as they rebuild on Cyberstan. Perhaps the bots would then fight the Terminids and the Illuminate, who knows? Perhaps the cyborgs would turn off the automatons and live peacefully on Cyberstan. After all, the bots and the Illuminate truly have no reason to fight. You know, the galaxy might just, the bots and Illuminate might just ally against the Terminids to stop their infestation. And if they do that, then the galaxy would be at peace, divided up between the squids and the clankers. The Illuminate, also known as the Squid, were an underwater species until they went on land on their home planet of Spy Shrine. They are far more advanced than Super Earth is in the sciences, but not necessarily in military tech. According to some, the squids have lifespans of thousands of years, meaning that all the Illuminate Super Earth fight today remember in recent memory what happened in the First War. They controlled vast swaths of the Milky Way up until their defeat in the First Galactic War. The Illuminate are obsessed with technology and science. They even studied and observed humanity for thousands of years up until this point. And I'm going off script here. Apparently, like, all the UFOs people claim to have seen in like our real life world, it's all the Illuminate. It's all the squids, man. Helldivers is real. Going back to the script here. I will read this excerpt from the fandom Helldivers wiki to explain Illuminate society, as my attempts to do so sucked. Quote, as the centuries progressed, the Illuminates would eventually come to form some sort of governing body, known as the Illuminate High Council, made up of their leaders, the council members. They also created a large AI creature called the Great Eye. While little information is known about the reality of Illuminate society, Super Earth Intel would claim that the Illuminate slowly grew into an undemocratic and brutal cult, with the council members being the absolute masters of their species, while the Great Eye used its telepathic powers to monitor and correct Squid society into subservience. End quote. The Illuminate are left intentionally mysterious to the player. They have monoliths that they apparently perform some sort of ritual around, and there's so much more we don't know about them. It's fascinating. Recently, Super Earth excavated ancient Illuminate ruins that were causing disturbances in the fabric of space-time. That has so much to it. I want to know where that's going. The Illuminate were first approached Super Earth with a treaty of cooperation and peace, but Super Earth claimed the Illuminate had weapons of mass destruction. Sounds familiar. That could destroy planets. They rejected the treaty and declared war. Super Earth somehow won because humanity is awesome, and the Illuminate are inherently peaceful and weren't as advanced in military tech. No weapons of mass destruction were ever found. The Illuminate were banished from the Milky Way. Their technology was seized, and Super Earth drove them almost to extinction. In my personal headcanon, the squids escaped to one of the two small dwarf galaxies that orbits the Milky Way. The small Magellanic Cloud and the large Magellanic Cloud. 100 years later, during the Second Galactic War, Super Earth colonists began disappearing all throughout the galaxy, supposedly colored by a strange whisper in the woods, going into the woods for no reason. Super Earth denounced these claims as false. On December 12th, 2184, the Illuminate would return, invading the planet Calypso in one of the deadliest battles of the Second War, where 38 million Helldivers would perish. The Illuminate were responsible for the kidnapping and transforming Super Earth citizens into mindless, human Illuminate hybrid zombies known as Voteless. They did this to replenish their numbers after their near extinction. They also combined, or perhaps these were failed experiments, they also combined Voteless into amalgamations of flesh, faces, and bones, known as flesh mobs. Clearly, the squids used the last 100 years wisely. The Illuminate weren't conquering, however. They were moving from planet to planet, harvesting dark energy for their ultimate goal. moving the Meridian Black Hole, or Singularity, towards Super Earth, in hopes that it would destroy it. Eventually, Meridian was stopped, and it looked like the Illuminati were gone, at the cost of 3 planets. And the Great Host appeared, a massive invasion force, introducing new squid enemies poised to invade Super Earth itself. They did. I was there. It was an awesome time. They were repelled at the cost of billions or millions of lives. They then moved into the southern part of the galaxy, where their former empire was before the First War. This time conquering it and transforming the cities into their own and getting more voteless. They have transformed buildings into strange alien thingamajigs. They have remained in the South ever since. They employed their mind control and telepathy technology in the war, in the form of the cognitive disruptors, and of course mind controlling the voteless. They have clearly used the last 100 years planning their revenge for what Super Earth did to them. They are not the same squids Super Earth fought in the First War. In Illuminate-controlled megacities, you can find piles of hundreds of dead human bodies. As I mentioned earlier, those overseers you kill in squid missions remember exactly what happened in the First War, as their lifespans reach far beyond ours. This is personal for them. This was definitely the longest history section for this video, but the Illuminati are the most fascinating and have the most to talk about of all the factions. What Super Earth has done to the Illuminati. 1. Rejected a treaty of peace and cooperation. 2. Falsely accused the Illuminati of harboring WMDs, or weapons of mass destruction, to justify war to get their advanced technology. 3. Drove them nearly to extinction, making them have to use humanity as their soldiers. What the Illuminati have done to Super Earth. 1. Kidnapped and transformed billions of humans into hybrid mind-controlled zombies. I'm gonna pause there. That's messed up. Like, they are not the same Illuminati. They are not. They're on their villain arc. All right, they are not the same. 2. Took those zombies and mashed them together into one abhorrent amalgamation of flesh, faces, bones, and limbs known as flesh mobs. 3. Invaded the heart of humanity itself, Super Earth. 4. Destroyed 3 planets with the intent of destroying 4 more, including Super Earth itself. If they win, well, they almost did when they invaded Super Earth. If they were to win against Super Earth, humanity would almost certainly perish, all turned into voteless and flesh mobs. As for the rest of the galaxy, it's almost certain they would destroy the automatons if they got into a war. But I think the bots and squids could turn into allies. They have no reason to fight each other. They both only wanted Super Earth gone. And if they went against the bugs, they would have no purpose for the voteless. And then would likely just kill all of them, as the squids replenish their numbers. The Illuminati would probably go on to just return to their previous life of studying everything. Like as I mentioned earlier, with the bots, the bots and Illuminati don't have a vendetta against each other. So they could definitely ally against the bugs, because I have a feeling the bugs would just keep expanding no matter what. The bugs are no longer sentient, and so they would just keep spreading and spreading. The bots and squids would have to do something about it. It is at this point that I will discuss Super Earth and what they do and their origins. Super Earth's origins are somewhat unclear. There was a Great War, a last Great War, likely a nuclear war given the uninhabited zones on Super Earth. As society rebuilt, Super Earth somehow took control of the entire Earth and formed the Democratic Council and the ideals of managed democracy. Managed democracy is a system where an algorithm decides who you vote for based on your answers to questions, essentially putting control of elections in the hands of the algorithm. Anyone who questions this as truly free elections are considered dissidents. As the service technician used to say,
I heard that some dissidents wanted us to select our own candidates instead of using the algorithm. Great idea. Everyone will just become a political expert overnight. Treasonous morons.
dissidents are handled by either execution or detainment. Recently, the Helldivers liberated a planet for the construction of a massive megacity-sized dissident prison holding 15 million of them. Dissidents can be anyone, and the definition of one is very loose. For instance, having the wrong haircut can make you one. Staring at or avoiding eye contact with an authority figure can be considered signs of treason. Super Earth invented the Alcubierre warp drive, a real concept, by the way, in the 2030s, and spread throughout the solar system and then beyond. Super Earth paints itself as the bastion of freedom, liberty, equality, prosperity, and democracy in the galaxy. But is that the truth? Super Earth has 8 ministries that control pretty much all aspects of a Earth citizen's life. This includes the Ministry of Truth, making sure nothing that Super Earth doesn't want the citizen to know gets through. They control Strawman News, which appears on the Helldivers ship's TVs. All 8 ministries are listed here, taken from the Helldivers bookkeeper. Ministry of Truth. The Ministry of Truth is responsible for keeping all citizens well informed and mentally equipped to withstand our enemies' vile propaganda. Ministry of Defense. The Ministry of Defense is responsible for the defense of liberty against all enemies, human and non-human, realized and potential. Ministry of Unity. The Ministry of Unity ensures that all of mankind is united as one by protecting us from internal threats, such as deviant behavior and expression of dangerous ideas. The Ministry of Expansion. The Ministry of Expansion tirelessly works to expand the reach of freedom and ensures and secures vital resources for our society to thrive. Sorry, God, I'm yawning. Ministry of Science. The Ministry of Science is responsible for continuous scientific progress, augmenting our moral superiority over our enemies with technological superiority. Ministry of Humanity. The Ministry of Humanity maintains healthy, productive voters by managing education, healthcare, social grading, and G management. Ministry of Prosperity. The Ministry of Prosperity manages Super Earth's economy and ensures a steady flow of resources to the most deserving. Ministry of Intelligence. The Ministry of Intelligence gathers and analyzes critical data to support Super Earth's decision-making and gain the upper hand over Liberty's enemies. Reading this, it becomes clear that these are references to George Orwell's book 1984, which discusses a totalitarian state where everything, and I mean everything, is controlled by the government. Super Earth maintains that the citizens are free, even free from the burden of choice, according to the democracy officer. Super Earth also has a caste system. dividing citizens into Class A to Class E citizens. And as they move up these classes, they get greater privileges. Class A citizens get the privilege of living on Super Earth itself. Class B citizens are important enough to get evacuated by the Helldivers in the missions, and you lose more privileges as you go down, such as not having a pet license, lesser quality healthcare, and other things. Which brings me to my next bit. Super Earth's apparent ignorance of protecting its lower class citizenry and military personnel. Only Class B and A citizens get evacuated by the Helldivers in war zones, while the rest are left to die by the hands of the enemy. Chief soldiers, Super Earth Armed Forces soldiers, are only trained for 72 hours. That is nothing compared to real-life militaries who train for 7 or more weeks. Helldivers are made known that they are expendable many times. As the democracy officer says,
as the chain does not scrutinize the brevity of its links, neither does liberty mourn the transience of a Helldiver's service.
Clearly, Super Earth is aware that the Helldivers, and more so Chief soldiers, are cannon fodder and bodies to be thrown at the enemies. Another note, the minimum age of working in Super Earth is 7. That means Super Earth employs child labor, even in military factories. Now that I have discussed Super Earth and how they formed and how they operate, I will now list out all the immoral things Super Earth has done to its citizenry. 1. Rigs the elections by having an algorithm that can be easily controlled to decide votes. Sorry, had to burp. 2. Controls every aspect of a citizen's life. 3. Silences dissidents and any free speech that doesn't align with Super Earth's ideology. 4. Makes irrational standards of what a dissident is or isn't. 5. Divides its citizens into classes that limit their freedoms while still claiming every citizen is truly free. 6. Leaves lower citizens to die. It just doesn't evacuate them. 7. Ill-equips and undertrains its armed forces, even its spec ops, the Helldivers. Thief is treated as cannon fodder. 8. The minimum working age is 7, meaning they put children's lives at risk in factories. Recently, the dissidents in that aforementioned prison were forcibly put to work building military infrastructure, meaning Super practices forced labor. 10. Lies to the people frequently, claiming there is no threat when there is. They frame it as if we are winning the war, when in reality we are being pushed back. If Super Earth wins the war, the Illuminate will be driven to extinction. The Terranids will be put back on the Element 710 and now 711 farms. The automatons and possibly the cyborgs, if they re-emerge, will either be re-enslaved on Cyberstan or just outright destroyed. Super Earth will control the galaxy and will likely move to expand it even further. If my headcanon about the Illuminate is true, Super Earth would likely travel through Meridia to defeat the Illuminate there. Super Earth would reign supreme over the Milky Way galaxy, detaining dissidents, lying to the people, making money, exploiting the Terminators for oil, enslaving the cyborgs/automatons. This would be admittedly the most peaceful ending. it would come with a dystopian society that silences free speech and thought, perhaps even through mind control, which Super Earth has hinted at not doing. Conclusion. Who are the good guys in this war? The point of this video is it depends on how the galaxy would turn out with each faction winning. It's also more like the US elections. You're choosing the lesser of two evils, or the four. I do not want to give a definite answer, but it seems that Super Earth might end up being the better fate of the galaxy as a whole. Sure, everyone will be oppressed and possibly mind controlled, but it is the most peaceful option that retains the most lives. But one must consider the fate of the galaxy as a whole, not just to define which option is better, and ultimately the good of this dead, the good side, with quotation mark, around good. This video was made out of a curiosity as an undemocratic thought slipped through my head. Is Super Earth really the least evil option out of the four factions? Because, I knew that every faction was inherently evil in some way. Except for maybe the Terminids, because they just do what they do based off of animal instinct and genetic mutations by Super Earth. But I knew, I just assumed we were the least evil option in this war. But then, I was like, are we? And I suppose the ultimate question here is it better to let an oppressive regime rule the galaxy if it ensures peace? Or is it better to take down that regime and free the people at the cost of upwards of hundreds of millions of lives? And in my opinion, ultimately I could be wrong, but just sometimes there is no clear good side.